Awesome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on a very important topic, which is AI and what is the future of content writing in this age of AI. Um, Thank you so much for joining. I'd love to know who you are, where you're from, how long you've been a content writer. So if you guys can just give me a little bit of heads up in the chat window, that'll be awesome. Um, Also, I would love to know if you attended any of my webinars before. Um, if yes, just type a yes in the chat window. And while we wait for a few more people to join in, and then we will just dive right in because I have a lot to show you and I don't want to waste time initially, right? So just a couple of minutes and then we will dive in, okay? Okay, so fair few have um, participated in my webinars before, great. And in terms of content writing, how many of you are beginners? Can you just write beginner? Or if you have some years of experience, write the years of experience in the chat window. Okay. Let's see. Some who have experience, some who are beginners, quite a few beginners. Um, I hope you guys can hear me clearly. My desktop says, my Zoom app says my internet is unstable, but hopefully you guys can hear me and see me. Okay, so I'm going to start sharing my screen and give you a quick introduction about who I am. What makes me qualified to talk about this? Second. Um, if you can see my Okay, sorry about that. My network just gave up, but hopefully I've changed it. Should not be a problem. I'm going to start screen sharing again and just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Let me know in the chat window, please. Awesome. At least a few people can see it. Cool. So, as you know, uh, one of the biggest things that I talk about is how do you become a highly paid content writer, okay? Um, I don't want to talk about that 50 paise, 2 rupee kind of content that unfortunately most content writers end up chasing. And the reality is that that kind of writing is already obsolete. Okay. So in the age of AI, you've got to reinvent yourself. Cool. But before I get started into talking about that, just very, very quick background. I've been doing this content and communication piece for 17 plus years. Okay. I have a lot of opinions, and I do a lot of different things. So, which is why I've been featured literally everywhere. In these 17 years, I've spent 8 in the corporate side, and then in 2015, I started my own agency, stepped out as an entrepreneur, and since then, I have successfully run and scaled 2 uh, highly profitable marketing agencies. So, in this, you know, in these 17 years, I have worked with a lot of different clients across sectors, though tech continues to be my niche. But I've worked in lifestyle and, health, fitness, coaching, you name it, and I've real estate, I've written about it, yeah. And I've understood one thing that we talk about in our 8-week intensive, which is basically what is it that clients want, right? What are they looking for when they hire a content creator? And that's what typically all my programs talk about. And now with AI in the mix, the expectations have changed, right? So today I'm going to talk about what are those change expectations and then how do you actually use AI as a partner to deliver on those, okay? So, but first, give me a quick poll. Just let me know in the chat window. How do you feel about AI in content writing? Are you excited? Are you curious? Are you worried? Just type it out in the chat window and let's make it a bit more interactive session. Okay. We have people who are excited, who are curious. Okay, we have one who's worried, very keen to explore it. Okay, a lot of curiosity. Nice. It's good to see that, every time something new comes up, excitement, curiosity are those positive emotions that really help us leverage that technology. Um, I'm honestly a little um, worried as well. So it is a mixed bag, because this is the time we have to reinvent ourselves, right? But it's fun to figure out what is new, what is happening, and let's see what AI is doing in content creation, okay? It's literally everywhere. And because I talk about how content is the baseline of everything, right? All communication or all marketing an organization does, the foundation of that is content. Whether you're writing one line, you're writing a snippet, you're writing metadata, you're writing blogs, articles, white papers, emails, social media, whatever you're writing, the base is content. Without content, um, no marketing can happen, right? Now, till now, companies were outsourcing a lot of their content, okay? Um, but with AI, they are finding that they can improve a lot of that output and do it faster with fewer resources, okay? In fact, there are some research that was done which talked about how 80% of businesses have seen an improvement in content output, and it is also 7 times faster, right? It's growing 7 times faster. Um, in the just last couple of years, and I have seen it personally. I show you how um, a lot of people are doing content generation now towards the end with a demo. Um, and here's what it's doing well, right? It definitely is much, much faster. In fact, just before I got on a call with you guys today, I was showing my friends an image I generated using AI, and I was doing this for a lifestyle client where I was trying to experiment what can we do and how can we showcase their product and things like that, right? And I have nothing to do with graphic design, okay? I don't understand it at all. I'm a content creator, but um, as again, I was talking to somebody just a couple of days ago, I'm a problem solver, right? So if a client gives me a problem to solve, I take a look at everything around in the ecosystem to say, how can we do this best? And I was like, without knowing anything about graphic design, I was exploring that. How do I present this lifestyle product better? And just a simple prompt to AI gave me a fantastic visual depiction of what it could be like, right? So it's faster, it's definitely easy to use. Anyone can use it. The skills and expertise needed to do the same things have gone down considerably from the human end. It can obviously do volume work. Like for us, it might take a day, 2 days, 5 days to write a well thought out research article. AI can do the hundreds and thousands of those on a daily basis. And it is like fantastic at research, right? I mean, you go around looking on the web, uh, probably pulling a few relevant articles, whereas AI can, of course, go and look at literally every article available on the internet and give you a quick summary in a matter of seconds, right? So it's definitely doing a lot of things that content writers were doing earlier, but it's not there yet, right? Because while it can do all of this, there is a way that AI writes content which still requires a bit of human insight. So how does it write? Okay. Um, some of you might be aware of how this whole tech thing works, but for those of you who are not, I'm just going to walk through this very quickly so you can probably get a fair understanding of, why sometimes your text gets AI flagged and things like that. Okay. So what AI does is it doesn't really understand what it's writing, but it has been trained on trillions of data points, right? It's read literally everything that's out there in the internet, like whatever the training data that's available to it. And it has seen how humans write articles or blogs or social media posts or emails, and it understands the patterns of that writing. Okay. So it pulls those patterns. And when you give it a prompt and you ask it to write a certain thing, then it predicts based on those patterns that what word, sentence, or paragraph should come next, right? So it really doesn't understand the meaning of what you're asking it to write, but it understands the pattern that it needs to put in place, right? So sometimes you'll also see, like, though it's gotten fairly like it's reduced quite a bit now, but in the early days of AI, when you would use it to write content, and it varied from tool to tool as well, you would see a lot of gibberish output coming your way, right? You'll say something and it'll, give you something else entirely, or it would not make sense, or it would not be in the tonality that you wanted. All of that, it's definitely bridging the gap, but the question is, will it completely replace content writers? What do you feel? Let me know in the chat. Do you think AI will completely replace content writers? No. I got one no. Okay, a lot of no's, one yes. Anybody on the fence? Anybody who doesn't know what is it going to do? Okay. I hear a lot of no's, right? And it's good to hear those rules, but I'll also give you a very realistic picture of how the world is moving, okay? It's slightly deviating from this topic, but I know how many of you read that news where a couple of these business leaders and obviously, OpenAI and Microsoft and everybody is saying how 50%, like, we're all in India, right? One of the biggest um, you know, career paths that people go after in India is becoming engineers or doctors, right? Our colleges churn out lakhs of engineers every year. And these guys on the news I was reading the other day are saying that 50% of coding is already being done by AI in organizations, and very soon it will be 95%, right? What are those engineers going to do then? So AI is not just about content. Like, it's content is not the only field that it's going to impact. Its effect will be felt everywhere, right? Like, for example, I just told you the image generation that I just did, and I'm sure that you guys have read all that noise around that Studio Ghibli images that everybody was producing. Um, that graphic designers are already, feeling that um pressure that use AI. We want these AI generated images, and then use that as a base and make it more creative. Since last year, all the design work that we're doing for clients, they are coming to us and saying, you have to use AI in design. Okay. That's not happened with content yet. That's not what we've seen in content yet. But for design, for videos, clients themselves are asking, we want to use AI, because the kind of interpretations, the kind of visuals it can produce is very different. Like, it goes beyond human imagination to do that, right? Because it can generate thousands of permutations, combinations in a matter of seconds. Um, so the answer, as what most of you got right, is no, it's not going to completely replace content writers. But as content writers, what we need to do is reinvent ourselves. Okay. So here's just a quick glimpse of where AI fails, but I'm not going to stick to this because, it is changing very, very fast. Okay. Like, for example, if I'm saying that AI content needs human editing, that's true today. It may not be true 2 months down the line. Okay. Because AI could be writing much better than what uh, and sounding more natural and authentic than a human being. Okay. Um, this we already talked about, right? AI doesn't know things, it just mimics. So that's still like a point which is going to stay relevant. And as some of you pointed out, right, in the chat, it doesn't create new ideas, right? It pulls from existing ideas and maybe synthesizes them a little bit. So the original human thought part is the most important lever for you to use as a content writer. Okay, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later on as well, right? Um, And again, this one where AI struggles with humor, storytelling, and emotional engagement, this is also changing very fast. And before I made this deck, I hadn't come across how many of you experimented with that new AI assistant that ChatGPT released Monday? Anyone? Okay, Uttara has, Ankita has. Okay, a lot of you have, I mean, at least some of you have tried it out. If you haven't, then go to ChatGPT and look for that new AI assistant. They list out the assistants on the side, and you can like click on Monday and just have a conversation with it, right? It is so snarky, it is sarcastic, it is humorous. It's like just talking to your friend. Okay. So that whole emotional engagement and everything, Monday is doing great. And I just made this deck last week. Okay. So in between that time, this point is already obsolete. So the speed of change is phenomenal. Okay. But again, the other point that AI content often hallucinates facts, that still continues to be very true. AI just sometimes it'll read multiple documents and it'll just cook up a story of its own. Like it'll make up a fact, it'll make up a number which doesn't exist. Okay. It'll make up quotes, it'll attribute quotes to people who have never said that. Okay. And it happened to me once. Uh, I had written a brilliant article for a client without using any AI. And this is early days of ChatGPT, I think. And the client came back and they wanted one quote added to the article. And now I just like it, they wanted it in a rush and I didn't have any time. So I just searched in ChatGPT, give me some famous quotes for this topic. Okay, because that's not like that's a very apt use of a tool because you just like instead of Google, you're using ChatGPT. Okay. And it gave me a quote from Florence Nightingale, which sounded brilliant. Like it was matching perfectly with what I wanted to say. And because we didn't have time, I didn't double check it. I just put it in the article and I sent it back. And the client comes back and says, "Can you point me to where this quote is coming from?" Um, and I looked and I looked and I looked all over the internet, and Florence Nightingale had never said this ever. Okay. So then I had to go tell them, I'm sorry, I just used like quickly searched on ChatGPT and put it. It's not, she has said similar stuff. She has said similar stuff, but not these exact words. So I couldn't put it in a quote, right? So I had to then go and change that and just created an unnecessary hassle, which could have been avoided if I had paid attention to um, even that small thing, that even using one line as a quote, that human oversight is critical. So even if you're writing an article, a full article with AI, you'll have to go through it line by line, double check, triple check opinions, facts, make sure that all the data is getting cited and you're getting the right credible sources in place for all of that data. So this part, so these two things, right, that AI doesn't really create new ideas and it hallucinates are still very important points where we can make a difference. Okay. So, meanwhile, if you guys have any questions, right, please feel free to put them in the chat window. I will either take them now as I'm going through the deck, or I will um, walk you through, like, I'll take the questions towards the end. So, depending on the relevance of those. So, don't like keep putting those in the chat window. So, the important part, right? Yeah, is everywhere. Slowly and steadily, maybe your clients will also start asking you, can you like use AI, write it faster, write it better, etc., etc. So, how do you still stay relevant and still continue to charge a large sum of money? Okay. So, this is the important point. Okay. And I have been saying this now for over a year. Now, this is the first time I've put it together in an AI webinar. But if you consistently look back to all the webinars that I have ever done about being highly paid content writers, I have consistently said this, that if you're playing in that volume zone, writing that SEO content, writing thousands of words every day, stuffing keywords in them, not caring about what is the message, how is the reader experience, what difference does it make to the client's business, then I'm sorry, but you're obsolete. right? So to stay relevant, what you need to do is, like I said in the beginning, you need to become problem solvers. Okay. You can't simply say, okay, the client has given me this topic, let me write on it. Yeah. You have to become the strategist. You have to understand the client's business. So again, this is something that I've said multiple times before. You don't need to have hundreds of clients. Okay. Because when you play the volume game, there is no space for thought, right? Then you are just churning out, you're like becoming a factory, and there is no value add happening. You get a topic, you quickly write something on it and send it back to the client, who then uses it on their SEO strategies, which also, by the way, are going extinct very quickly because nobody searches on Google anymore, right? In fact, just yesterday I sent out an advisory kind of thing to my client saying, it's time for you to rethink SEO because that doesn't exist. Now, that is a strategy. Okay. Before my clients come back to me and say, Supriya, our rankings are suffering, our traffic is suffering. What can we do with our content? I went to them and said, listen, because nobody is searching on Google anymore and people are using all these AI engines for search, etc., as well, you need to have a AI search strategy in place, right? Now, if I'm the one who's put that thought in their head, guess who are they going to come and reach out to? In fact, I sent that just day before yesterday or yesterday morning, I sent out that. Today morning, I got a message, like a reply from a client saying, can you do a workshop on this? Right? And how much are you going to charge for that workshop? So they're not asking me to do free stuff. They're asking me, we'll pay you for this, but this is an important topic. We need to know what's going to happen. Right? So you have to think in whichever area, whichever niche you're operating in, how do you bring more strategy into it? Right? Second is narrative builder, because now writing content has become very easy. Okay. I tell ChatGPT or any other engine, the Gemini or whatever, that give me a social media post for, let's say this is the picture, describe this and give me a social media post. It'll give it, it'll do a fantastic job of it also. Right. So it's not about writing anymore. It's about you telling the client what is the post they should be writing. Okay. So the you become more of gatekeepers of consumer behavior, that people are going to like a post that is more emotionally triggering in this case, or people, the audience that you have are going to resonate more with a fun-filled Gen Z kind of a post. So you need to become those narrative builders for those clients. Okay. And this is the time to do all of this, okay? If you don't act on this now, then somebody else will already take that place, and people, like companies, will need fewer people going forward, right? Like you may have a team of 20 content writers till date, but you don't need 20 content strategists, right? So whoever is able to upskill now and make a place for themselves and build these client relationships are going to be the ones who continue to be highly paid, right? And which is why we need to start thinking from um and the skill, I'll talk about the skill building also later on, what are the kind of skills you need, but it's not just writing. Okay, I see a lot of people, this community is now some 36,000 people, right? And I've seen people who are really good at writing versus people who really struggle with grammar. Okay, but now AI has leveled the field. If you knew how to write a language better, the person who doesn't know so much can give a voice prompt to a chat GPT and get good, nice grammatical writing. Okay. So now the game is in the thought process. Who can think better? Who can connect the dots? Who can communicate that to the client saying, this is what you need to do when it comes to your content strategy? Okay. So strategy, narrative, thought leadership, uh, it is not about, because now as AI gets into the picture, content expectations are also changing, right? People don't want the same old boring thing anymore. They want to see what is the idea. Even, and again, what I told my clients yesterday was the reason search is changing is you're not writing just for the Google's algorithm anymore, that, okay, show my link to people who are looking for this keyword, right? Now, AI engines are going and figuring out, is your content valuable enough? And then picking that up and showing that in the answer that the client is looking for, right? So how do you demonstrate that thought leadership, right? How do you go from feature to benefit? How do you tell AI and the people who are reading it that this content is worth reading for you? It's not a waste of your time. And also, you need to become more AI assisted researchers, right? Which is again finding out these new angles, finding out these new perspectives, because now you have the power of AI in your hands. So the basic data points it'll give you for nothing, right? But what sense do you make of that? How do you connect it to the story of the business that you're telling? All that is what you need to start thinking about, right? Because like, I just put this thought out there that content without strategy is just noise, right? You have to, and exactly what I said, you have to create a narrative, you have to uh, build something that resonates with the audience, makes them take an action, or and builds a brand positioning for your client. So the ask from content writers has just gotten bigger, and it is very, very important that you start working on this now. Okay. Um, and basically, this ask is don't just produce words. Yeah, I can do it much, much better than you can produce value, right? So, your job is to ensure that content resonates, persuades, and adds value. Okay. I hope this is clear. I know this was a heavy slide, but this is what is happening. Okay. So, I want to give you a quick demo of how this is panning out, right? And I took a very, very common industry. Okay. Fitness, wellness, all these coaches are looking for this kind of content, right? So I said, okay, suppose you get a fitness client, a fitness coach as your client, right? And the coach says, I want to get more clients, so I want to use a content marketing strategy to reach out to their clients. Now, typically, what writers would do is they'll say, okay, I'll write 3 blogs for you, I'll write 5 emails, I'll write 20 social media posts, and that's it, right? And for that, I'm going to charge you XYZ, whatever that retainer is. Now, the thing is, today that fitness coach is like, I can also use AI to write that content. What do I need you for? And that's the question we have to answer, right? So, I'm sure a lot of you have already experimented with ChatGPT or other AI engines, but I just thought for those of you who haven't, um, I just show you the quality of work that it can put out. Okay. So I gave ChatGPT a simple prompt and I said, you're a fitness coach looking for new clients. Your specialization is helping people lose weight. You want to create content to show people your expertise and how you can help them achieve their weight goals. Generate a list of content ideas for them. Okay. Simple, detailed prompt. Okay. I've not been able to post the full list. Okay. It generated like an insane number of ideas. I've just taken one screenshot and posted here, right? And you can see immediately what it has done is it has also bucketed those content ideas in some people are not able to see my screen. Is that like only one person or even others are not able to see? Okay. So Nehal, you might want to check your connection because others can see it. Okay. So as you can see, in a matter of seconds, it generated a list of some 30 content ideas bucketed in key message areas, right? Some educational value-driven content, some mindset shifts, some tips, tricks, and how to content, and couple of other buckets also it had. And if you look at the ideas, they're fantastic, right? The real reason you're not losing weight, calories versus macros, why 90% of diets fail, all very good, compelling headlines, right? And all very good topics that you can write blogs on, which will resonate with people who are trying to lose weight, right? And which is a target audience of this fitness coach. So I've got more like 6 months of content ideas in one single prompt. Okay. So what I did was I picked one topic. So if you can see topic 17 here is how to create a calorie deficit without feeling miserable. Okay. And that sort of resonated with me. because every time one tries to go on a diet, it's like, oh my God, I can't eat, and I'm so like you get into the hungry zone, and that's been my experience. So that topic really resonated with me. So I said, okay, let me try and get AI to write a blog on this, right? So I picked topic 17, and all I had to tell it was, okay, I like topic 17. Can you create an outline for an 800 word blog for this topic? Right. And then I also like just added one extra thing saying, think something out of the box, some that would really appeal to the reader. And again, it gave me an outline very quickly. Okay. Um, so it told me what the hook could be. It told me what is the section one, which is what's the real challenge. It told me what the section two could be, how, we want to talk about sneaky calories and how you can eat the same but slightly smarter, and a couple more topics and a closing thing, right? So it's a fairly detailed outline. Now I could, depending on what my client wants, edit this outline and give it back to the AI engine and say, okay, some of this makes sense, some of this doesn't make sense, and here's a revised outline. That would again maybe take me another 10-15 minutes to do, but for this case, I didn't make any changes. Okay. I agreed with it and I said, okay, use, write a blog with the same outline, but then I gave it some more detailed instructions from a prompt standpoint. I said, keep the following in mind. I want to start with a story that how a client of mine or the fitness coach was miserable following a diet and kept falling off the diet plan, and then segue into how it's a real challenge for a lot of people. Second point, keep the tone conversational and emotionally triggering. Because again, fitness wellness is and all the persuasive selling is emotional, right? So I said, keep it emotionally triggering. I clearly wanted to tell it, don't be preachy because I don't want it to become academic content. Write like you understand and empathize with the challenges of these people. And of course, because I'm writing for an Indian audience, I wanted to say, make it more Indian in terms of food recommendation and examples. And it gave me this blog. Let me just share the actual, uh, you know, blog with you um, that I downloaded from there. One second. And I'll get you to read it so you can actually see. Oops. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen again. Okay. So this is a blog, 856 words that ChatGPT wrote out. This is the first draft. I have not made any edits to this, right? And as you can see, it took the prompt I had given, the instruction I had given, and it started with a personal story, right? When Richa came to me, she was done. She's tried every diet under the sun. And every time she would start strong, lose a kilo, and then crash, not physically, mentally, right? She'd find herself snapping at her husband, craving Maggie at midnight, blah, blah, blah. And it's using like fun and sarcasm and all of that as well, because I wanted it to be conversational, right? So I started with a story, and then it came down to the point of the blog, which is that you can create this without hating your life as well, which is what we wanted to say. Then it dives into let's talk about how, right? It talks about what is a calorie deficit, gives some information to people. Um, it busts some myths and beliefs saying most people think calorie deficit means starving, but it's not. That's not just unsustainable, it's also cruel, right? Um, then it gives them the secrets, right? That let me show you a kinder, smarter way to create the deficit without the misery. So, point one, volume foods are your secret weapon. So, what to eat instead of this, right? And what is volume eating? So it explains all of that. What is the second point? The second tip, the third tip. And if you can see, it also keeps it very snackable, right? It gives those bullet points, the breakdowns that I keep talking about in my previous webinars as well, right? Um, so that way, this is a fantastic first draft, right? And it ends with a CTA as well, right? DM me deficit on Instagram. Let's make it happen without the drama and so on and so forth. What do you think of this draft? Let me know in the comments, in the chat box. Okay. I get one comment saying it's really good. Okay, incredible, very readable, pretty good. Yeah. And it took me just 3 minutes, I timed it, to get from an idea that I want to write a blog for a fitness coach to this first draft, right? Can we match the speed if we write this blog ourselves? No, right? No. So the question that your client is going to ask becomes very valid. If AI can give me this quality, and first, the biggest concern around AI content was that Google is going to flag it, and Google will not rank AI content, etc., etc. Right? Now that's not the case. Google has clearly said, I don't care whether AI writes the article or a human writes the article, it has to have value, right? Also, search has moved beyond Google. It's actually happening on AI engines. So again, if AI finds your content valuable, it doesn't matter whether AI has written it or human has written it. Yeah, this is the scary part. Okay. It's creating fantastic content without any human involvement, which is why, going back to that point, that is very important for you to figure out where are you in this equation, right? Now, where are you once you get this draft is, for example, let me just share this again. Uh, so for example, now this is where knowing your client becomes very important. Okay. Now, for example, let's say this. Hmm, where was that point? Okay. So maybe this point, right? Maybe let's take this point again. It's a hypothetical thing because this is an experience I have from one of my previous clients, right? So suppose they don't believe in eating when you're actually hungry. That's not their tip. Okay. Suppose they tell you to eat at certain intervals, like clockwork, that stick to the schedule, eat this at 7 a.m., eat this at 10 a.m., eat this at 12 p.m., eat this at 4 p.m., right? So then this point is going against their ideology or their approach. Yeah. To give you another example, for instance, we are now doing another course on get clients, like how do you find clients? Okay. And I have another mentor who is taking people through that course. Now, when we first created content for that course, she also wanted to include a module on cold calling and cold emailing, right? Now, that is not what I believe in, okay? And honestly, a lot of people that I know, we don't believe in cold calling or cold emailing, right? So if we give a prompt to ChatGPT and say that give me a course outline for uh, a course that helps people find clients. Okay. It will definitely add that cold calling, cold emailing part there. Okay. But that's not my philosophy. So you can't give me a blog or an article which talks about it because that's not me. That's not what I want to say. Yeah. And to know that, you have to know me. Okay. Similarly, to know that this client doesn't recommend eat when you're actually hungry, they recommend eat at regular intervals no matter what. That's where you knowing the client comes in. Now, this is a simple example. Okay. We can add it in, apply it in multiple different situations also. Could be a food client, it could be a perfume client, it could be a tech client, it could be a fashion client, it could be whatever. Unless you know what they want to talk about, you would not be able to spot these inconsistencies and remove them, right? So this is where human oversight becomes important, right? Now, so for example, let's say this was some other data point, right? That research says reducing oil from 3 tablespoons to one can help you lose 400 grams in a week. Maybe AI said that. You will have to go check actual source where it is, find it, and put it in this document. So you've become one, the prompt engineer, okay? How to give the right prompt to the AI so it gives you this output. Two, you've become a gatekeeper of content to say, okay, this is what my client's audience wants to hear versus this is what my client wants to say. Where is that overlap? And how do I tweak this based on that overlap? And three, you've become a editor to say, okay, and fact checker to say, this is all correct and verified information, right? Now, obviously, people will not pay a lot for the last part, right? If you're just editing and fact checking, that's again, a very execution-led job, right? But knowing what I want to say, the gatekeeping, the understanding of customers is the important part, right? Why? So when AI gave me that long list of topics, those 30 topics, knowing which are the five that are going to resonate with my audience is your job, right? So this is the shift. I hope this is like sort of understood. Any thoughts or questions on this? Mm. But won't the clients say they can do it themselves? So here's again, good, very good question, and thank you for asking this. Okay. Um, Now the low paying clients will say that. Okay. And again, this is going back to something I've been saying for many years. There are two types of clients out there. Okay. One who value money over their time. Okay. And those are the low paying clients because they want to haggle, negotiate. They will take more time to do something, but they will not pay you to do something. Those are not the clients you want to work with. The second type of client are those who value their time over money because they know when they have more time, they can make more money. Okay. So all the things that are not core to what their business is, they want to outsource. Okay. To give you an example, now, suppose I want to uh, do a life coaching thing, for example. Okay. Now, using ChatGPT, I can very easily create all these blogs, um, put them out on whatever my website, etc. Uh, but this, even when I use AI to create that blog, first knowing what, like understanding whether this is making sense to my audience, reading those, rereading those, fact checking those is still time consuming, right? Rather than waste my time on creating those assets using AI, I would give it to someone and say, you handle this. I will quickly send you a voice note that needs to, like, you need to use to create this content. Okay. And I will, that time, even if it frees up 1 hour of my time, I will use that time to search for new clients for myself. I will use that time to deliver a service to my client, which I will get more, like, definitely get more value. Like today, if I go and talk for an hour in a corporate setting, they pay me 50,000 rupees for an hour, right? Do I want to spend that 1 hour creating this content, or do I want to spend that 1 hour working, like delivering that session for a corporate that's giving me 50,000, right? I can pay a content writer 50,000 for the whole month to do this for me, which is not a small sum, right? But it frees up 30 hours of my time, which is invaluable to me. Okay. I give you a very domestic example, and this is the constant fight I have with my mother and my mother-in-law. Okay. Um, I don't cook. Like I'm a fantastic cook, but I don't cook. Now, both of them are constantly on my case that it takes barely an hour a day to cook. Why don't you cook? And I tell them the same thing that I pay my cook 20,000 a month. Okay. And it takes away all of my headache. No matter who is hungry in the house, the cook is making food for them, right? When I want to cook something special, cooking still remains like a good experience for me to have. But otherwise, I don't have the day-to-day hassle, right? And that 1, 2 hours a day that I would spend asking people, what do you want to eat, making meal plans, figuring out what to buy, cooking that meal, I'm actually using to do things that help me unwind, give my brain a break, or whatever it is, right? That makes me a more productive person in making sure that that 20,000 I'm paying to the cook, I'm getting 100x of that every month, right? So it's the same with AI. Yes, clients can do it themselves, But the smart clients are not going to do it themselves because they know that doing this is a waste of their time, which they can deploy better building their business, right? Content creation is one pillar of building their business. It's not the end be all end all, right? So that's what, yes. What about AI detector tool? Like I said, now it doesn't matter. Okay. Yes, there are still AI detector tools which are honestly quite rubbish. Okay. It depends on which model you're going with. It depends on whether you're using a paid version, whether you're using a detector which is like turbo level versus you're using a light version versus you're using a free version. All of them detect different things as AI. Okay. In fact, I put this post up on LinkedIn some time ago. I wrote an article after days of research. I wrote a fantastic article all by myself. I put it in an AI detector. It said it's like some 86% AI. I was like, what? So I was really pissed off. So I took that same article, I put it in ChatGPT and I said, humanize this. Okay. It gave me a version. I copy pasted exactly from ChatGPT, put it in that tool, and it said some 13% AI or something like that. Okay. So there is no vouching for what that is. And then I've been experimenting with AI detectors also. I take one piece of content, put it in three different detectors, and they'll all give different output. One will say this is 100% AI, one will say this is 0% AI, something will be somewhere in the middle, right? Even those who are saying, okay, it's 10, 12% AI, they will highlight different areas that are AI flagged. So there's no one way to say this content is AI flagged or not, right? But what we have started doing is we definitely take a screenshot and send it to our clients now. Clients who don't want AI generated content, we take a screenshot and we send it to them saying it's, not AI generated. But there is a new type of client coming who's saying use AI, use it because you'll give me output faster, you'll give it to me better, I can create more content, I can reach out more to people, right? Use it, but give me better stuff, which gives me better value, right? Why do I want to wait 5 days for you to give me a blog when you can give it to me in one day, right? But this is where the value of content creation goes down, but the value of content strategy goes up, right? So you want to charge them the same money or even probably more money, but you have to go to them as an advisor, not just saying, oh, fine, I'll use AI and create content. So detectors are a sham. You can tell your clients also it doesn't matter. Um, so even my client flags it and asks me to revise it for using AI. So I'll tell you again, it goes back to the pattern detector that we talked about, right? Now AI detectors are being trained on all this data that humans are creating, right? Humans are rubbish writers in most cases, right? There is very few good content available, and otherwise the internet is full of a lot of rubbish. So AI thinks anything that is more polished, anything that is using bigger words, anything that is making um, longer sentences is AI generated. Okay. So to humanize your content, to rephrase that, what you have to do is break down sentences, bring in some colloquial language, right? Like start some sentences with an and, start some with a but, make like, just write one word and stop there. Uh, Create a few grammatical inconsistencies which are not like rule breaking, but something that you talk, like how you talk instead of how you write perfectly. Even if you use Grammarly to fix your grammar mistakes, sometimes it'll flag as an AI content because ultimately Grammarly is using those AI rules to show you what is wrong with your text, right? Grammatically. So it is more of how you try and make a content very conversational. Okay. By the way, this completely AI generated draft, let me see how it shows up. Okay, one second. So I'm going to use this, a free tool, because most of you might have access to a free tool. And I'm just copy pasting it. Okay, one second. Um, this. So I've taken the zero GPT detector And I've pasted this here. Let's see what it says. Your text is human written. And we just generated it from AI, right? So, like, AI detectors are a sham, honestly. There's like just, I have nothing to say on it, right? Um, okay, I'm just going quickly down. And see, anytime a company is using a specific AI detection tool, you can go back to them with the same logic and you can go back to them with a different screenshot saying, I use this AI detector, look, this is what it is saying, right? Uh, which is the AI tool that can be used other than ChatGPT. There are lots of them. You have Gemini, you have literally every platform today comes built in with a GPT, which you can use to create content. Like if you want to put up a LinkedIn post, you start writing on LinkedIn and say, write with AI and give you the post, right? Um, is Gemini better than ChatGPT? I honestly can't say. I think ChatGPT is better, but maybe because I have trained the model for a year now, so it understands what I want to say, and I use a premium version, and I haven't trained Gemini, right? So with AI, you also have to train it, okay? Um, and that's when it starts giving amazing outputs. Anyway, so moving forward, so this is, what we were talking about. Um, that AI can give great drafts, but then you need to humanize it by adding personal experiences, insights, because AI, like we said, it doesn't have lived experiences, right? You do. So you add your personal take on what would work, inject emotions, inject storytelling, rework the intros and conclusions, or give it prompts for it to improve it, right? And I'll talk to you about how to do those prompts as well, right? And of course, finally check for accuracy, okay, before you publish anything. So how do you do this? Okay. And the prompting becomes very important because a lot of times people say, oh, we generated this by AI, but it wasn't great, right? It wasn't great because you didn't tell it what to do. Okay. You can't like use your calculator and give it random numbers and say it's not giving me the right answer. You have to feed the right equation for the calculator to tell you the right answer. Yeah. So here is some examples and some ways you should prompt things, right? So you have to be specific, not vague. And in the example that I showed you previously, you saw how I was prompting it, right? I gave it specific terms, conditions, directions for it to generate a block that even could not get detected by an AI detector, right? So be very specific. Yeah. So a weak prompt is write about AI in content. It could write anything, right? So a strong prompt is being specific. So saying write a 500-word blog post explaining how AI is transforming B2B content marketing, include examples, use a conversation tone, and a clear structure. So now AI has a good starting point, right? And first draft is maybe not always going to be great. So you have to keep iterating it, and I'll come to that as well, right? So one is this. Second is set the tone and format, right? So write a 1,000-word article on whatever topic, it's weak, right? And you saw how I um, did those bullet points, right? So similarly, first point is write in a witty Gen Z tone. And you could make it millennial tone, make it business formal, make it, write it for women in their 40s or whatever that is, right? Format it as a LinkedIn post with emojis and short paragraphs. And when I give a prompt, I say don't use any emojis, right? And I say don't use one-line paragraphs. So it depends from person to person, depends from client to client, right? Or for example, use the tone of a Harvard Business Review article. So that becomes very important for um a business article. For example, you don't want fancy emojis or weird words popping in a business article. So you give that specific example of a tone that you want to use, right? Give context or background to that, right? So write an email campaign doesn't say anything, right? So again, give it context, saying act as a senior content strategist at a SaaS company, targeting CFOs, write an email campaign introducing our new analytics dashboard. Then it can give you more details. It will even ask you, you can even make it more specific. You can say, ask me some questions that will help make this email campaign really successful. It will ask you questions, you give it answers, I'll give you fantastic emails, right? And like I said, use iterative prompting. right? So, for example, when you gave all these prompts, it gave something, right? And you feel, okay, this is not strong enough. So you can give it feedback and say, can you expand on this point? Or can you make this paragraph better? Or turn this into a story and, start with a hook or something like that. So as you iterate every version, you will come to one which is really something that you can just copy paste and use from there. So human editing is not just like you download it as a Word document and start editing. You can also edit on the chat itself, right? With the chat tool. So, for example, the health and fitness example I gave, if you feel that this is not the right uh, story, you say, okay, the story is not working out. Can you instead use a story of, let's say, this person who's been trying diets for like last 5 years, right? So it'll change the story. Or you say, okay, this story is a little weak, or maybe it's not starting right. Can you uh, pull that story throughout the blog instead of just in the beginning, right? So you can try those iterations and see what comes out. And sometimes it'll give you those two, three versions, right? And all those versions will have something nice. Okay. So what you can do is you can pick from those and create your own version. Okay. Which is like very AI agnostic, and that might also be better for AI detectors. Okay. And also add constraints and goals. So, for example, instead of write a social media caption, you tell it that it's a 150-word Instagram caption. It needs to introduce my content writing course. You need to use a hook. You need to use a call to action, and you need to end with a question. So that becomes something that allows AI to create better output for you. Okay. So this is a quick summary. You guys might want to take a screenshot if you like. Um, but exactly what I just said. Um, your do's and don'ts, which is be specific with instruction, avoid vague or generic prompts, set tone, audience format, don't assume that AI knows your intent, provide it context and background, and don't expect accurate results without any direction to it. Break large tasks into smaller steps, right? Don't ask for complex content in one go, iterate, and you will get better ideas. Also, use example templates or reference styles. Don't rely on AI alone to create brand consistent content. Okay. You have to help it build it. Okay. Add constraints and don't let AI ramble on. There's a lot of interesting things it can generate without that. Uh, Use conversational natural language while talking to the AI. Okay. And definitely when create something, try and edit it to your client's brand tone. So that's pretty much what I had on how to use AI as a content writer. And like I said, because the world has changed so much, right? Expectations have changed so much. Here's a new skill set that you have to develop. Okay. It's not just about writing anymore. You have to look at research from a new lens. Okay, it's not about finding the data anymore. AI is doing that. You have to apply that data creatively, right? How do you make sense of the data in your client's context? Okay, you have to curate this. Okay, which, like I just said, even AI will give you different versions. You pick out what is best, you pick out what is the most resonant, you take it and you create something amazing from that, right? So AI will give you awesome content. Your experience working with the client, with other clients, is actually going to help you figure out how it fits into their overall strategy. Okay. Um, Storytelling, yes, you need to tell it the the real stories of people that your client is interacting with, the kind of transformation that they're enabling, the kind of impact they're having. Use those stories and then help AI make better content from that. And of course, thought leadership, where where is this thought leadership coming from, right? When you start knowing a client, right, you become an expert. So today I'm a thought leader in the tech space. Okay. My clients come to me not because Supriya writes great content. They come to me because Supriya knows what kind of tech content needs to be written. Okay. In fact, just couple of last week, I had a call with a client. Actually, this Tuesday, I had a call with a client, and they've been planning to do a campaign and they wanted to do it on a different topic, right? I had met them a couple of months ago and I said, that topic is okay, but everybody today want to talk about data governance and data readiness because of all this AI thing. So maybe you want to rethink what is your campaign going to be. Because tech campaigns are not cheap, right? You're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on running this campaign. So don't just create content because you have a solution for it. So they went back and I thought, okay, we are going to do whatever topic they had discussed. This Tuesday, they came back and they said, Supriya, we are going to do a campaign on data governance. And I said, but didn't you want to do the other topic? And we had a chat and they're like, yes, because when you said data, is an important topic today, we went back, we talked to our subject experts and they agree that we need to talk about data. And we do have the capabilities and skill set in doing this. So let us create a campaign on that. Tell us what we can do. Right. So then I went back to them with a campaign plan. I told them, okay, this is a main hero asset that you can create. Here's a topic. You can create 3 white papers. Here are the topics. You can create 8 blogs. Here are the topics. You can do 6 videos. Here are the topics. I created the entire campaign plan, costed it out, gave it to them, and said, let me know if it works, right? And this I've just sent yesterday, so hopefully by next week we'll know what we're doing. But this is what you need to start doing for your clients. Tell them what they need to say and become an authority in the space that you're operating in. Okay. I know it's easy for me to say, it is very difficult to do. It takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, right? Today you attended this webinar. Tomorrow you're not going to become an expert in your area. But you have to start working towards it now. Okay. The time to wait is sort of over. So that is pretty much it that I had from, what is AI doing and etc. I see some questions in the chat window. I'll take those also. But is it okay if I quickly take 2 minutes to talk about the course that we are starting? Yeah. Yes, no. Okay. Cool. So I'm sure some of you know I run this thing called the 8-week content intensive. And the good thing is that this is a course that works along these lines, okay? We don't talk about the grammar of content creation at all. We talk about the psychology of content creation. And you can talk to some of the past participants of the course and the idea is to get you thinking, right? What does a writer want? What does a reader want? What is the role that you are playing in this ecosystem? So the course is structured around those aspects. And this is what we do in 8 weeks, right? In the first week, we will set your goals, where you are, both in terms of your skills and capabilities and, revenues, to where you want to be. What do you want to develop? How do you want to, outreach to clients? What is the money you want to start getting in, right? Once we do that, then we get to writing challenges. Why writing is difficult. And we'll understand it in the context of again, week 2 and 3 is about a lot about psychology, right? How do you understand what's the intent? Why are people writing? The main business of the companies you're going to work with is probably not content creation, right? They're probably selling some product or a service. Content is just a means for them to achieve that end, right? So are you giving them that means is the question, right? Is your content doing something for them? So we talk about all of those and how do you plug those gaps in your writing. Then we move to writing fundamentals, which is about structuring uh, and the real estate of content. So we talk about that, and it applies to both, whether you create it with AI, whether you write it yourself. Fundamentals are important. Okay. Then we talk about research and storytelling. Then we talk about how do you write various different forms of content, what is important, etc., etc. And then we help you create a portfolio that you can start sending out to your clients. We teach you how to reach clients. We give you some templates, etc., that you can use to approach them. And finally, we also help you put together like the basics of freelancing, which is how do you price your services? What are some of the like how many people who work with me don't know how to raise an invoice? It's insane. So we teach you all of that. And of course, in the age of AI, we also talk about ethics, etc. Right? So that's what you will learn. And in this, what you get is 4 calls with me, which is 2 per month. But this is not it. Okay. I basically do these calls every 2 weeks, and every time, whether your batch is finished, you can still join the call. So no matter when you started joining my courses, people who started 2 years ago still join calls. So you can always bring in your questions, your assignments, and get live feedback from me. You also get 16 live calls with program mentors who have actually learned from me, applied those principles, and actually made a lot of money. So those are the mentors who will actually take you through this. You get a lot of recordings, you get guides, worksheets, you become a part of a different WhatsApp group where we share some opportunities. You get a lot of practice assignments and you get feedback on 11 assignments. So you like literally are building your writing muscle as we go along. So the next batch is going to start in May and the applications are open. So I'm going to share this link in the chat window and you can apply if you like. What happens after you apply is it's a form where you have to answer a few questions. And what we're trying to do is find a fit, okay? Because it's a nice community. Um, and we want to make sure that people who are driven, who it's not just like, oh, I want to take another course, but who really want to do something with it, and are willing to learn and help each other are part of that group. So once you fill in the form, we get some sense of, what are you looking for? And then one of my team members will call you. All of this is no strings attached. You can have a conversation. You can ask all your questions. When is it starting? What's going to happen? What is the price? Blah, blah, blah. Everything you can ask them. And if you feel that's a fit, you can sign up and you can join the next batch that starts in May. And I just saw a question that is it for someone who's just novice? Yes, we have both beginners and experienced writers. And if you look at some of the reviews of what people end up telling me, everybody has a lot to take away from the course, right? I think the youngest person I had in the course was a 10th standard student. I did not want to take her, but her mom was like, no, no, she needs to do this course. So, yeah, there's something for everyone. Which niche is primarily covered? Tech? No, there's no, it's niche agnostic. It's about the fundamentals of content creation. It's not about niche. Whatever niche that you want to operate in, you can apply the same concepts there. Okay, I'm just going back and like checking if there are any questions I missed. Will this webinar come on YouTube? I will send you a recording and a link later. So keep an eye out on your inbox or if you're a part of the WhatsApp group. Is AI SEO enabled? Not yet. People are still figuring out how to do that. Do you think content writers will have job security in the future? Just asking. Nobody will have job security in the future. Like, I don't know if you know that companies across the globe are firing their code writers, like they're firing engineers. With autonomous trucks, drivers have no jobs. With, those automatic toll gates, people who worked on toll gates have no jobs. Um, every time a new technology comes in, there are a lot of jobs that get cut. But every time a new technology comes in, there are a lot of new interesting things that open up. And every time people who are able to understand that faster and move and take up that space are the ones who get the maximum gains from it. And then there are obviously the laggards who then like, say in that pool they're there, they're not there. So it's just jobs will go, jobs will also be created. And my favorite example to give here is this, right? When Industrial Revolution happened, all of these people who were doing handmade items, right? Handmade bags, handmade shoes, handmade this, handmade that, they lost their jobs, right? They became one of those, one part of the assembly line in an industrial setup, right? They were only attaching such, somebody was only attaching the sole of a shoe, somebody was only doing that. Everything became mechanized, okay? And people thought, oh my God, these people are never going to get jobs again. But today, if you look at it in a couple of years after the Industrial Revolution only, the value of handmade goods went up. So today, if something is mass manufactured in China, people want to pay peanuts for it because it's tech, it's nothing unique. It's like the same shoe, same bag is coming out in, millions of quantity, right? Versus people are willing to pay lakhs of rupees for something that is handmade, right? I was seeing an advertisement many years ago where in one of the cars, I forget, I think it was a Rolls Royce, the line on the side of the car is hand painted by a painter. And it's like you can totally do it with technology but it's like the skill in putting that straight line across around that car is so valuable that that guy gets paid a lot of money, right? So the value of handmade stuff has increased, even though machines can do it better, like in terms of Handmade stuff is flawed, it's imperfect. You may not have the same stitch twice, but that imperfection makes it better, right? So, in the same thing, now that AI is automating a lot of these things, we have to figure out where is it that we can do that human-made stuff which will still have value, right? What is the unique perspective? What is the emotion? What is it that we are, the vulnerability that probably we would bring to content? So, all of that is yet nobody knows, but it's a good time to figure out. Yeah. Um, yes, it's like homemade grandma's food versus hotel paratha. Yeah. Cool. So this is pretty much what I had for you guys today. I hope this was valuable, and I hope to see you some of you in the cohort in May. If you're interested, please do apply. Fahim most likely will call you. Um, do you have any plans to offer a course on AI for writers? I think what we'll do is we'll do these master classes for the people who are a part of the 8-week course anyway, because AI is becoming all pervasive. So it can't be like a separate thing. But in the Q&A calls, etc., that I do, I'll definitely be bringing in more elements of how to use AI. Cool. Awesome then. Thank you so much for being such patient listeners. I hope this really added some value to your journey as a content writer. And I will see you guys another time. Okay. See you. Have a good night. Bye bye.